Okay, so after a long time, I'm taking your class again after the lockdown. So, okay, and I have been trying to upload some of the notes in the e-portal, but due to some reasons, some technical faults, you are also facing, I hope, the same problem. So, because of that, I'm not able to upload those files there, but I hope that soon the issue will be solved and I will be upload it to you properly. And if in case it is not happening, then I will be discussing the notes here only. Okay, the question answers, everything I will be discussing here if I fail to upload it in the e-portal. Now today we will be starting with the next chapter from your text, that is My Childhood. Page number 68. My Childhood, I will be starting with you today. Okay? So My Childhood, it is actually the portion, one extract from Abdul Kalam's autobiographical novel, Wings of Fire. So Wings of Fire, you have already heard about that book. It is a very famous book. It was published in 2005. It was written by two authors, Abdul Kalam himself as well as Arun Tiwari. So Abdul Kalam as well as Arun Tiwari, both of them composed and written and upgraded the book for the readers like you. Now, the Wings of Fire is completely about the life of Abdul Kalam. The entire book is about him. And from that, one small portion was mentioned which is dealing with the childhood of Abdul Kalam, where Abdul Kalam was born, how was his childhood. So this part of your text is dealing with that portion. Therefore, it is named My Childhood. Here, my means Abdul Kalam himself. I was born into a middle-class Tamil family in the island town of Rameshwaram, in the erstwhile Madras state. My father, Jainulabuddin, had neither much formal education nor much wealth. Despite these disadvantages, he possessed great innate wisdom and a true generosity of spirit. He had an ideal helpmate in my mother, Aishamma. I do not recall the exact number of people she fed every day, but I am quite certain that far more outsiders ate with us than all the members of our own family put together. So Abdul Kalam is describing where he was born. So he was born in a small town of Rameshwaram, and his family was actually originally Tamil. They were all Tamil, middle class Tamil. So his father's name and mother's name has been mentioned. His father was Jainulabdin and mother was Aishamma. So both the parents, they were very good as human beings. They were very good human beings because they were very modest and they were very helpful towards others. Fine. So what Abdul Kalam is trying to say here, that he used to remember in his childhood days, his mother used to feed more outsiders, means more people from outsider, means poor people. Poor people used to come in their home and in his home, and they used to they were served food by his mother. So therefore he is telling that more members used to eat than the number of members in his own family. And regarding his father, he is mentioning that his father was not a very highly educated person. Okay, he just had a very formal education. Formal education means he did not had any formal education, means passing out class 12, then completing a degree course in any college. So this is called a formal education. So Abdul Kalam's father, we can't say that Abdul Kalam's father had any kind of formal education like that. But even being formally uneducated, he was a man of big wisdom. He had so much knowledge. He is a very knowledgeable person, even though he has no formal education. And how is the knowledge? The knowledge is about humanity. Most importantly, the knowledge is about humanity. How a good person you have to be. How you have to become a good person. How you will be useful for others. How you will help others. Okay, everything related to that was filled in his father. He was very rich and wise in that way. So therefore, his mother was also a perfect partner for his father, because his mother was also equally helpful and with the same mentality just like his father. Therefore, he got a perfect helpmate. I was one of many children, a short boy with rather undistinguished looks, born to tall and handsome parents. We lived in our ancestral house, which was built in the middle of the 19th century. It was a fairly large pakka house made of limestone and brick on the Mosque Street in Rameshwaram. So Abdul Kalam is telling that he had many siblings, he had many brothers and sisters, so he was one of them. And he was not a very distinguished person. Okay, he was a very average looking person. He was not tall, he was short heighted, and he is not that much handsome. If you see Abdul Kalam's picture, you can understand what he meant by this statement. He is not at all handsome, he is not having that distinguished facial features and all. Okay, he looks very average. But he used to wonder that how an average looking person like me was born to such handsome parents, because Abdul Kalam's parents were very handsome in compared to Abdul Kalam. So he here jokingly referred to this part. And they used to live in a pakka house, which was their ancestral house. Their ancestors used to live there. So it's a very old house. Pakka house made up of limestone and brick. And where it was situated? In the Mosque Street of Rameshwaram. My austere father used to avoid all inessential comforts and luxuries. However, all necessities were provided for in terms of food, medicine, or clothes. In fact, I would say mine was a very secure childhood, both materially and emotionally. So austere father means, austere means a kind of a strict disciplined person, one who follows strict discipline and leads a very simple life. So according to his father's nature, his father actually never liked any kind of unnecessary furniture, unnecessary things in home. Okay, he does not believe, he never believed in kind of luxury, unnecessary spending money, like if we need a bed, we will just have a normal bed instead of having a very soft and spongy bed. That is not needed, that is called luxury. Okay, for clothes we will be having simple clothes instead of having different glorious fashionable clothes. That is luxury. So he never believed in luxury, and he hated that. So how he used to maintain the family? He used to provide every basic needs to the family. Basic needs, what are the basic needs? Good food, medicines, proper medicines on time, and good enough clothes. Clean and soft and nice clothes to wear. Okay. Therefore, Abdul Kalam is telling, I would say mine was a very secure childhood. His childhood days were very secure. He used to be very safe, and he used to feel very safe and secured when he was living with his parents at that time, both materially and economically. He never lacked anything in his life. Okay, he had food, he had things, he had money to buy books, he had clothes, everything. Materially he was secured. Emotionally also he was secured. How emotionally? Because whenever Abdul Kalam used to face any kind of dilemma or any kind of problem, emotional problem, the father was there, the mother was there to take care of him, to solve the problem. So emotionally he felt secured. The Second World War broke out in 1939 when I was 8 years old. For reasons I have never been able to understand, a sudden demand for tamarind seed erupted in the market. So the Second World War, 1939, it broke out. We all know that at that time India was under the British rule. Okay, India was suffering under the British rule. So India was almost about to get the freedom at that time. So before that, just 10 years before. So at that time, for some unknown reason, Abdul Kalam still couldn't understand what was that exact reason that suddenly in the market the demand of the tamarind seeds were high. Everyone was demanding one tamarind seed. Tamarind means, imli, the seeds of imli. Okay, there was a huge demand. So Abdul Kalam took that opportunity and he used to collect the tamarind seed and used to sell it in the market to get some money. I used to collect the seeds and sell them to a provision shop or on Mosque Street. A day's collection would fetch me the princely sum of 1 anna. My brother-in-law Jalaluddin would tell me stories about the war which I would later attempt to trace in the headlines in Dinamant. So he had a brother-in-law, means sister's husband, obviously. So sister's husband's name was Jalaluddin. So Jalaluddin used to often tell him stories about the war, what is happening in that World War II, which team is attacking whom, and why the attacks are happening. Next day, what is going to happen. So he used to tell him stories. And next day, what he used to do, he used to go to the market and he used to collect the newspaper, and newspaper name is Dinamant. Remember the newspaper name? Dinamant. So there he used to track the headlines which is referring to that same story, whether whatever the brother-in-law said has been published in the story or not. He used to try to find out. Our area, being isolated, was completely unaffected by the war. But soon India was forced to join the Allied forces and something like a state of emergency was declared. The first casualty came in the form of suspension of the train halt at Rameshwaram station. So Rameshwaram was a kind of isolated area. It was not included in the mainstream part of Indian subcontinent. So therefore it used to be like separated. So therefore whatever is going on in the World War II did not affect at that time. But later on, when British soldiers or British government forced Indian soldiers to work for them, to do the battle for them in the World War II, at that time India got involved in World War II. And then suddenly a state of emergency was declared all over the nation. And the first casualty, here casualty means not death, here casualty means problem. The first problem that happened to Rameshwaram after that emergency was the station, the Rameshwaram station was cancelled. Means no trains would be coming to Rameshwaram station or would be stopping at Rameshwaram station. Okay. Therefore, one major problem happened. The newspapers now had to be bundled and thrown out of the moving train on the Rameshwaram road between Rameshwaram and Dhanushkodi. So there were two towns, Rameshwaram and Dhanushkodi. So the road in between them, the Rameshwaram road, so near that road, one railway track was passing. And whenever the trains are going through that track, from the moving train, the newspaper bundles were thrown on the road because the train could not halt at Rameshwaram station. So whoever is doing this newspaper business, they had to collect their bundles from that moving train. That forced my cousin Shamsuddin, who distributed newspapers in Rameshwaram, to look for a helping hand to catch the bundles, and as if naturally I fitted that slot. So he had a cousin, his cousin was Shamsuddin. So Shamsuddin needed some person to help him, okay, to catch the bundle, because it was a kind of tough job. He was a single person, and for a single person catching so many bundles was kind of difficult. So he needed some other person to help. And naturally, as if it was like made for Abdul Kalam, as because he was not doing anything important, so he was available at that time to help him. So naturally he got involved into that newspaper, catching the newspaper bundle. Shamsuddin helped me earn my first wages. Half a century later, I can still feel the surge of pride in earning my own money for the first time. So for the first time, Abdul Kalam is telling the first wage, the first income that he made was through Shamsuddin by helping him catching the newspaper bundle. So that was his proud moment, because he could proudly tell everyone, or he could proudly tell himself, that I have earned something by myself. So it was his first earning. If any question comes, what was his first earning, you can refer to this answer, that is catching the bundle of newspaper and helping his cousin Shamsuddin. That was his first earning. Every child is born with some inherited characteristics into a specific socio-economic and emotional environment, and trained in certain ways by figures of authority. I inherited honesty and self-discipline from my father. From my mother, I inherited faith in goodness and deep kindness, and so did my 3 brothers and sisters. So every child is born with some inherited characteristics, like what we say, like if the parents are good, obviously the children will be by birth only, by genetic only, they will be good. Okay, so that is why Abdul Kalam is telling that just because the goodness of my parents, okay, due to the goodness of my parents, some of the good characteristics of his parents were also inherited in him naturally by birth. Then after that, the environment mattered. Okay, so he was living in a very good environment, under the shelter, under the emotional as well as proper shelter of his parents. Therefore, he developed into a very good person. So he is telling, he is actually referring that because of my father, I inherited the honesty and self-discipline. So his habit of honesty, being an honest person and being a very disciplined person. So, Abdul Kalam is telling, this I am because of my father. I got this thing, I learned this thing from my father. And from his mother, he learned how to be kind and how to be good, how to do good, and how to feel kindness. The kind self he got from his mother. And not only him, but all his brothers, all his 3 brothers and sister. Everyone got the same character from their parents. I had 3 close friends in my childhood: Ramananda Shastri, Aravindan, and Shiva Prakashan. So now Abdul Kalam is coming to his friend circle. He had 3 best friends. So name of the 3 best friends you have to remember. One is Ramananda Shastri, Aravindan, and Shiva Prakashan. All these boys were from Orthodox Hindu Brahmin families. So in a kind of coincidentally, everyone, like all the 3 of them were Hindu Brahmins, and they belong to a very orthodox family. Orthodox means very rigid Hindu family. And only he alone was a Muslim. Means all the 4 friends, only he was a Muslim, and other 3 were Brahmins, that also Hindu. As children, none of us ever felt any difference amongst ourselves because of our religious differences and upbringings. In fact, Ramananda Shastri was the son of Prakshi Lakshmana Shastri, the high priest of the Rameshwaram temple. So, in the childhood time, the way they were brought up by their parents, okay, by the family of their friends' parents, the way they were brought up, they never ever thought, they never ever got this realization that they have to look different from one another just because of their religious differences. So the religion was different. 3 were Hindu, 1 was Muslim, but their childhood time was so much filled with innocence that they never felt that kind of discrimination, or we have to feel apart from each other because of our religion. They never felt this thing. They never felt this difference at that time. In fact, Ramananda Shastri's father, he was a high priest of a temple in Rameshwaram. Okay, next, Ramananda Shastri was about to take that priesthood place, the position of the priest after his father. He was supposed to succeed him. Later, he took over the priesthood of the Rameshwaram temple from his father. So as I told you, so Ramananda Shastri later on became the priest of that very temple where his father used to be the head priest. Aravindan then went to the business of arranging transport for visiting pilgrims. So pilgrims used to come. Obviously, Rameshwaram is a place of worship. Many devotees used to travel to Rameshwaram. So obviously, transport arrangements had to be done. So another friend, Aravindan, he got involved into the transport business for the pilgrims. And Shiva Prakashan became a catering contractor for Southern Railways. So another person, another friend, he went in a different line. He went to the catering business for the Southern Railways. During the annual Sri Sita Rama Kalyanam ceremony, our family used to arrange boats with a special platform for carrying idols of Lord from the temple to the marriage site, situated in the middle of the pond, called Ramatirtha, which was near our house. Events from the Ramayana and from the life of the prophet were the bedtime stories my mother and grandmother would tell the children in our family. So see the situation, the childhood, why the childhood was so nice and filled with innocence without any kind of religious differences, because Abdul Kalam, their family were Muslim, but their family were given the responsibility to arrange the boats and all during the Rama Sita festival, a festival which is actually like a puja, okay, celebrating the marriage of Rama and Sita. So they have that kind of ceremony or festival. So in that festival, they have to arrange boats because the idol of Lord Ram has to be carried from the temple towards a small island in the middle of the pond, which is known as Rama Tirtha. So there the idol has to be carried, and there the puja used to happen. So this arranging of the boats and all, it was the responsibility was given to Abdul Kalam's family, because the temple was very close to their home. So they used to arrange all the things, all the religious things for a Hindu. And even in the night, while sleeping, while having the bedtime stories, the mother as well as the grandmother, they used to tell the different stories of Ramayana, okay, different facts from Ramayana, were their bedtime stories. They also told the different stories related to Muhammad, Prophet Muhammad. Okay, so here like equal importance was given to both the religion. A child's mind was not poisoned by the religious differences from the very childhood itself. So they never learned what is the difference between these two religions, because both the religions were living harmony with each other. One day, when I was in the 5th standard at the Rameshwaram Elementary School, a new teacher came to our class. I used to wear a cap which marked me as a Muslim, and I always sat in the front row next to Ramananda Shastri, who wore the sacred thread. The new teacher could not stomach a Hindu priestess son sitting with a Muslim boy. In accordance with our social ranking, as the new teacher saw it, I was asked to go and sit on the back bench. I felt very sad, and so did Ramananda Shastri. He looked utterly downcast as I shifted to my seat in the last row. The image of him weeping when I shifted to the last row left a lasting impression on me. So now one day this was going on. So one day one incident happened. A new teacher came to their school. Okay, and Abdul Kalam and all his friends used to sit together. So when this new teacher came to school, he first saw that Abdul Kalam, and he identified Abdul Kalam as a Muslim because Abdul Kalam was wearing their religious cap. Okay, he was wearing his cap. So by that cap, he understood he was a Muslim. And on the other side, just beside him, Ramananda Shastri was sitting, and he was wearing that sacred thread. The Brahmin boys used to wear the sacred thread. We call it poite. So he was wearing that. So immediately he understood that one is a Muslim, whereas other is a Brahmin, Hindu Brahmin. Okay, and for some like kind of uneasiness happened inside him. He was not able to tolerate this thing, that how can a Hindu sit beside a Muslim, how they both can sit together with one another. This is intolerable. So he felt very disgusted with that sight, and he immediately ordered Abdul Kalam to get up from that place and move to the last. Okay, he was sent in the back bench. And when Abdul Kalam was moving his things and he was shifting towards the back bench, he saw his friend Ramananda Shastri was weeping. He was crying. He was feeling very bad for his friend, that why this teacher is coming and making him, insulting him in such a manner just because of the religion. He felt very hurt, and the hurt feeling made him cry. And watching him weeping, Abdul Kalam watched his friend weeping for him. That made a very big impact in his heart, and he could never forget that moment. He could never ever forget the love that his friend had shown for him that day. So here you will underline the last line, because many times questions can be formed from this line, that which left a lasting impression on Abdul Kalam. What incident from his childhood left a lasting impression on him, on Abdul Kalam? So here you have to write this image of him, image of Ramananda Shastri weeping when I shifted to the last row, left a lasting impression on me. So that weeping incident made that lasting impression. Okay, so today we will end the class here, till here. Next day we will complete this chapter completely. So in this chapter, the things that you have to remember the names of the different places, the name of his cousin, the name of his brother-in-law, obviously the name of his parents, which school he used to study, what was the ceremony that was happening where their family got involved, the Rama Sita Kalyanam, and they had to go to a particular place called Ramatirtha. Okay, these are the small names you have to remember from this chapter as information. Okay. So I hope this chapter is clear to you till this far. If any problem, you may ask me. Okay. Fine then. I'm ending my class here. See you again in my next class. Bye bye.